Is that right? Hey, y'all. How's it going? Man, the light in here looks kind of weird. Let's see. We got 10 people in already. 3 thumbs up, and I've not even had to do anything yet. And I'm excited about that. Hope everybody's doing really well today. I know that creepy smile, huh? I can do creepy smiles. Do you ever get crossed mushrooms from your used bag dump pile? Savior B, I'm not entirely sure what you mean by that, but no, probably not. I mean, the different oysters are probably putting out spores and mixing at some point, but I don't know that I've ever seen that. So, 42 Freedom. If oyster PO takes 6 weeks to fruit from grain to bulk, does that mean I need 6 stages of mycelial growth at all times to be able to deliver every week? Thank you. I never miss these opportunities to learn more. Basically, yeah, Freedom, that means that every week you're going to have to be harvesting, planting in the fruiting room, planting in incubation, doing your lab work, doing something through the steamer. I mean, if you want consistent results, you'll have to do the consistent work time, every week. Dustin Waller, 3:45 until lunch. Oh, was that like 15 minutes ago? Or no, what? Sunny, Ohio, checking in. What's up, Cameron? And PWP, another Ohioan. My goodness. Anyone in bed already? I mean, not here. Not yet. Not at 4:32 in the afternoon. What's up? I'm in. Jeremy. Hey, Andrew. I'm having massive problems fruiting. What temperature are you using? Does airflow affect that? My ideal temperature is 65 degrees Fahrenheit for most strains. You can go a little lower, a little higher sometimes, but typically lower is better, and higher is, where you're going to start having problems. Airflow will affect your temperature if you are pushing more airflow through your room than what your HVAC can handle. What is the grow parameter for Old Road oyster? It is a winter oyster. It was found in December, so it tends to like it cool and wet. It grows at 65 degrees Fahrenheit, so it will grow at the temperature that most grow rooms are kept at. Been a long day, guys. So I'm a little tired, a little low energy. We'll get there though. I just had some caffeine. We'll get there. Hey, from Hungary. Well, hello, Hungary, from East Tennessee. What's going on? Do you have a universal substrate you use for all your grow? Master's Mix is what I would suggest for all the grow except shiitake. But there are apparently people who grow shiitake on the Master's Mix. That's just hardwood fuel pellets and soybean hull pellets. But it's a particular strain. I don't know that strain. So the answer is no. I actually use my goat mix for my oysters. We're trialing it with black poplar, hericiums, chestnuts. We'll see how they do on those. And we're going to trial it with shiitake. But shiitake, we have a wheat bran. It's 40% wheat bran, 60% hardwood fuel pellets, and that's what we use for our shiitake mix. We almost always hydrate to 60%. So, hello, mushy heads. How's it going, Andrew? It's going great, Josiah. It's going well with you too, man. Dustin, hey, bro, sent you a message. I know we can talk easier than this, but I sent out your pine oyster yesterday. Be there on Friday. Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, I haven't checked my Discord messages like in 2 days. So sorry if I missed you. But yeah, man, I can't wait to grow that pine. Ben found oyster on pine as well at Panther Creek State Park the other day. So we've got that cloned out as well. So I'll hopefully buy them side by side. I'm in Missouri when the morel's out. Oh, nice. Tammy, that'll be great. I love morels. Oh, right there. Oh. The camera's reversed. Do you generate grain spawn every day? Hungarian mushroom farmer, we almost always do. Yeah. We really, I've got, in order to do it every day, I had to train Jack. So Jack comes in and he cooks grain spawn every day. And then it's getting us really caught up on our orders. But beyond that, we have we're producing about 12 bags of grain spawn a day. 5 days a week. So we don't do it on Saturday and Sunday. I usually do my liquid culture on Saturday or Sunday. Hello, everyone. What's up? Hey, Jim from Michigan. Cameron. Let's see. Soil Man. Hey, man. First time catching you live. Also about to order some warm weather strains. King Blue, Elmsy, and Lion's Mane. Does that sound good? All of those sound pretty good. I would suggest the Mother of Pearl. If you haven't grown the Mother of Pearl yet, it's typically touted as a cold weather strain, and it was bred in December. And it is from the snow oyster and blue oyster. But man, that thing was pumping out mushrooms even when we were in the high 80s and low 90s last year. So, do you mix anything with your grain before inoculating? Wood, gypsum, etc. We do. We've got a couple videos or a video on it at least where we put hardwood fuel pellets in there. We're now actually just adding straw pellets in. It seems like liquid culture takes to it a lot better. So we're actually working with that. What's going on?
Before we take them out.
For cracked ones? Gotcha.
So they don't shrink wrap.
Yeah. We got little ducklings in the incubator. They just hatched out yesterday, so we've got to get them into their little brooder and then get them out quick. So let's see. What light is that in the background? That's a Aperture 120D2. It has been a very helpful light for making videos. So, let's see. Yeah, good afternoon, Chris. I've been up there for working the best. Oh, you guys are having a conversation with yourself. That's why I'm getting confused. Gotcha. Well, those three survive 75 degrees. Yes, Soil Man, those three will survive 75 degrees easy. Hello from Florida, newly starting here, and was wondering if I could add wood shavings into sawdust. Yes, I actually would prefer to add some wood chips or shavings to my sawdust. It wouldn't go through my bagger very well, but I am a fan of a diversity of particulate sizes. You know, like I want everything to have some big chunks, some little chunks, a lot of dust, that kind of stuff. But we don't have that ready, like a readily available supply, or the infrastructure to deal with it well. Now, we are talking about getting a pack bagger one day, but the pack bagger will only be for experimental stuff. So wood shavings are not necessary, but would be a good addition, I think. Heck yeah, Jim, I can't wait for spring mushroom hunting either. It's I have been walking like every day and trying to I want to get back into hiking shape, and I want to do a lot of mushroom hunting this year. Do you have a recommendation for an impulse sealer? I've ordered 3 on Amazon now. Each time it arrived, it did not work. Looking for something that works. I think it's called Pack Secure. Pack-secure.com. And they have a 16-inch hand impulse sealer with a 5mm seal and a magnet. And that is what I would use if I didn't want to buy. It's like a $200 sealer, but it is the way to go. Other than that, you can order the foot pedal sealers that clamp, but you'll have to find some way to either put them on something or on a stand or some other way. But those are what I would suggest. But those are hundreds of dollars. So, have you ever used chicken poop to grow? I have not. I am thinking about using some duck poop. Yep. How's the quail project going? It's not right now. It's just waiting. We are planning on getting it, but I want to get the cages and stuff built first. You're fine, Samantha. You guys do whatever you need to do. Have you heard much about bin tote pasteurizers using a pressure cooker to make steam and move it to the bin? I have, Zap, and I am not sure. I've seen people have some good results with them. Seen some people have not good results with them. I've never used one, but I've seen them used. I wouldn't necessarily suggest it. So, hello, Brazil, or Natal, Brazil. What recipe do you recommend for making grain spawn? I actually have a video on it, and if you want to look at my channel, there's a whole video on making grain spawn. It's literally just grain and water. So a little straw added in with the bagging process. Do you give tours for fellow farmers of the farm when people are traveling through your area? We will be heading to Gatlinburg in April. Kind contact me privately about it. I don't just give out blanket tours, but I will occasionally give tours. So if you want to just email me through the website, we can talk about it. Hey, Dune, what's going on, bud? I just ordered Old Road LC off your website. Is it a cold or warm weather oyster? So I know that it's a cold weather oyster. I have not tested it in warm weather. So it was found in December. It has been growing at 65 degrees. So that, most people keep their grow room around that. I don't know how high it's going to go because it's been untested up to this point in warm weather. So we'll see. And thank you for ordering that, by the way. Do you reuse plastic petri dishes? You probably can. I do not. You might be able to UV light treat them, maybe. I don't know. You're not gonna be able to pressure cook them. Oh, the little doggies are going home.
Oh my goodness.
What are some hobbies that you have outside of work? Oh, PWP, Zach, you have no idea what you're talking about. Like what you're asking, man. So that's one of our hobbies. Oh, little ducky.
It looks like a penguin.
Oh my goodness. So do we know which one's ours from our eggs?
We have one that has from our eggs.
But we don't know which one it is.
I'm thinking this
You think so?
looks like a khaki.
Okay.
The fig color is definitely better than khaki.
Heck yeah. All of our little duckies. They're going to spend the night in here tonight.
This one's the tiniest.
That's the tiniest. Hello, I'm your new mama.
I think Dad.
So Zach, I raise fish. I like plants. We garden. I do video work. I like to for art projects and stuff. I like to make videos with a little bit higher refinement than like what I do on YouTube when I'm trying to do just production videos. Right now I'm growing koji. We're growing yeast for brewing. We're doing, oh my gosh, I do a lot of stuff. If it involves growing it or eating it, it's usually something I'm going to enjoy. So I'm building the original Thor for now, but there is a problem with the hammer. It gets stuck because it stops the pellet while I move the hammer sideways. Do you know a solution? So, Hungarian mushroom farmer, I don't. That would be a Ben question. And today we don't have Ben with us on the live stream. I will say the new Thors don't hang up at all because they have got the gap down to like nothing. And my chat jumped. I bought a 9 kilowatt sauna steamer on Amazon. The last live stream Ben mentioned the newer models are harder to modify the timer. Is this still a viable option or should I return it? So again, another Ben question. It's going to be a lot harder. And so what I might do if I were you is return it and then buy 2 4.5 kilowatt elements. 2 4.5 kilowatt elements and then wire those up with a high temperature float valve or something. That's what we use. So you might look into it. There's Joe Iovino of Cactus Hat Mushrooms on YouTube has got a good build out for a sterilizer. So howdy, Andrew and fellow Mossbacks. Hello, Chip. Hope you're doing well. Will you try cultivating the plastic eating mushroom anytime to dispose of plastic waste? Also, what do you do with your plastic waste? My plastic waste goes in the trash, which goes probably to the local landfill. No, it would be useful for eating certain things, I guess, but it's not. It doesn't just eat plastic. It eats a certain specific type of plastic. So there's that. I probably won't be messing with it anytime soon. There's a lot of other stuff I would rather grow first before getting there. I might get to it at one point. You know how to whisper, right? I know you're excited. He's your baby. Let's see. Glad to hear you're getting back to hiking, Andrew. Yeah, me too, Chip. I do it a lot. Not a lot. I'm trying to do it a lot more. I really want to. I used to hike all the time, and I haven't been hiking in a while. So I'd like to get back to where it's a regular weekly thing. Thank you all for your helpful information here on these Q&As and other videos. Your support is awesome for all of us budding farmers. Well, you're very welcome, Trav. I hope it continues to be useful. So, yes, please do hit that like button. What is your BE with shiitake? 60% plus 40%. That's a highly variable question. I don't think that BE is a really good way to measure this stuff anyways, but I mean, I was regularly getting 2.5 pounds off of a 12-pound block. That was at about 5 pounds of dry material. So, there you go. I made a spore syringe according to your instructions. I dropped from this liquid into Agar, but it does not sectorize. It only has one. So it probably is sectoring. It's just sectoring on a very tiny level. And then what you're seeing is the most aggressive organisms taking up most of the plate. So you can do what's called serial dilution to spread the spores out so that you get, more areas that are growing out, or you can do a spore streak instead, which is just taking spores on like a inoculation loop and streaking them across a dish. That'll help you get more defined sectors. Some species or certain strains, have been bred to themselves over and over again for so long that now when spores are dropped on a dish, they actually don't separate very many colonies because they recognize each other as something they can connect to. So they'll oftentimes join networks. There's a lot of reasons why that might be the case. I put yeast in my LC I made up last night, but just now going to PC, will it still be okay, or will the yeast have eaten too much of the sugar? Probably be okay, but how active was it? Was it really fizzing and bubbling? Because I know I put yeast in. I've been growing yeast on purpose and did on plates, and then put some in liquid culture to create a yeast master. To start growing yeast to brew. I've got a 5-gallon batch of sake that I want to brew, so I was growing the yeast out for that. And I've got a yeast. I swabbed the outside of an oyster mushroom cap and got the yeast from that and grew it. Got the yeast from that, and now I've got that plated out, and I'm about to start brewing a batch, probably a 1-gallon batch of a couple of different things like mead or something to see if oyster mushroom yeast would taste good. Are you going to have tabletop farms for sale soon? No, I'm not, Kat. I don't want to be back in the kit business. I was in the kit business for a while. It was not a fun business for me to be in. I don't have an interest in being in kits. Sorry, I can recommend many kit companies, but I won't be doing kits for a long time. Or if I do, they'll have to be more expensive than my cultures. Did you have a chance to check out the pictures of the King Blue Oyster that turned out brown? I sent it from. Oh, Nick. Yeah, I saw that. Where did you get your culture from? Did you get your culture from me? Let me know, and then when we get back around, I'll answer it again. Couldn't find soy pellets, thinking on using soybean meal. What's your thoughts on it? Yes, you can use that, but you will want to use less of it. It is much stronger than the hulls. We're trying out a bunch of substrates. Cracked corn, I've heard, works really well. Alfalfa pellets also works well, from what I hear, but at different recipe amounts. And I think it's an 80-20 on the alfalfa, 20% supplementation. But I think somebody said that they were doing a 50-50 and it worked out great for them. So I don't have a lot of experience with that, but we do have several new recipes going to the grow room over the next week or two. What have been the highest maintenance costs you encountered in mushroom production, and how did you tackle it? Yes, wide question, answer as you wish to interpret, and let's see what's good coming out. Okay, labor is my most expensive bill. I pay anywhere from $1,200 to about $1,800 a week in payroll. I would say energy cost is probably, either material costs. Material cost is probably my second, of production of the bags. And then my third highest cost would be energy usage, which once we get the HRV installed, I'm hoping that goes down a lot. But my electric bill is anywhere from $600 to $1,000 a month. So you said black pearl, correct? The one that performs well in heat. Mother of pearl, the mother of pearl. MOP. Cute ducks, y'all. Thanks, Chip. Cuteness overload. Yeah, I like those little ducks. Not name those ducks for food. Oh no, man, those ducks are all food. I mean, they're egg layers. So I ordered golden 300. My little daughter's going. I ordered called Golden 300 hybrids from Metzer Farms. It's an egg laying breed. I got Muscovies coming in March. At the end of March, my Muscovies are coming in. The Muscovies are meat birds for me. So, well, yay.
Oh, yeah.
Could coffee beans work for B plus? Oh, B plus. If you're saying what I think you are, I don't know. I've never used coffee with those. Any tips on growing wine cap indoors? I don't have any tips because I haven't done it, but I've done a lot of it outdoors, but I've never grown it indoors. I've heard if you grow, you use spent substrate. If you use spent substrate, you can grow it on that much easier. So do that, and then maybe add a little black cow cow manure compost. So I think, and I haven't tried this yet, but we're making up the spawn for it right now. I'm thinking black cow manure compost mixed with straw pellets is going to make a great dung lovers recipe for wine cap, agaricus, and other dung lovers. So we may actually be offering those blocks pre-sterilized pretty soon too. Has anyone tried to colonize coffee beans? Yes, Dusty, I have. They usually need to be pressure cooked. So I've grown on them many times. For my experimentation, like I made coffee agar and then tried a bunch of strains through it. Shiitake was the only thing that responded well to coffee. Everything else had to be trained to it and still didn't like it that much. And will Pathfinder do well in heat as well? I'm very interested in Pathfinder. So Pathfinder is an odd one. It does well in warm weather and it does well in cold weather. It is not going to be the easiest mushroom to grow. So if it's not what I recommend for people for their first grow because it's finicky. It likes a ton of fresh air. It likes humidity to be just right. And as long as those two things are right, temperature doesn't matter as much. But let's say that you get into warmer weather and you have even the slightest amount of bacteria in your humidifier, it will show up on the Pathfinder first. You could have mushrooms in your grow room that look perfect for the fresh air, but Pathfinder needs more. And it will tell you if your CO2 is getting higher before. It's like a canary in the coal mine. That said, it's probably the best tasting mushroom that I've had so far, other than Old Road. And its texture is it's just phenomenal. So it's a better quality mushroom in my opinion, but it is a slightly more advanced mushroom. But it will not do, it does well in warm weather, but I wouldn't consider it hot weather, if that makes sense. So early summer down to really late summer, close to fall. But when you get to like high heat in August around here, usually I have to cut down the Pathfinder and then go back to it. So I grow it. It's like a 3-season strain for me. Wine cap should be outdoors always, in my opinion. Too easy. So that's kind of the way I feel. That just the amount of work that goes into them outdoors is nothing. And so it's basically just building the bed and then inoculating it and then picking mushrooms. Maybe watering occasionally when it's really dry. When is it ready to pick the spores? What spores and more? Ben, thanks for the great strategy vid. I will tell him you said so, Chip. Hopefully Mycological Warfare 2 is coming out soon. Please, when is so more? There's a delay. Like I'm not answering questions. Like when you chat on there, it takes a long time to get there for me to get to the chat. And that's just because I'm answering every question I come across. So please remember that. You don't have to repeat a question a bunch of times. But that said, I don't know what you mean when it's ready to pick the spores. Are you trying to pick the mushrooms? Are you trying to do a spore print? You can take a spore print at pretty much any point. And I do have a video on how I take spore prints. So. Hey, nobody ever talks about this. What's your process after harvest? Do you wash? How do you wash in bulk? Hey, Paul, I grab the mushroom off the block, I put it in a box, and we take it to the restaurant. That's the only treatment they get. I don't do anything else. You never wash mushrooms. Number one, you never wash mushrooms. And number two, if you do wash mushrooms, you have to have, I believe, certain types of regulation that you're now entering into. Any success with injecting your fruiting bag with LC? Yes, absolutely. They are fruiting like crazy right now. And based off the pin sets I'm seeing, looks like I'm going to have large clusters. So I'm thinking that it's going to be a good way to go just in general for the goat mix. Hi, Andrew. Hope you're keeping well. How's the LC on straw dust experiment going? Are you doing tests on polypropylene tubing? Not tubing yet, but I would hope to eventually. As far as the LC on straw dust experiment, like I just said, it's going great. I'm really enjoying it. We're production's a little lower this week because we're waiting on some soy. Excuse me. Let's see if that clears my throat a little. What was the question? Oh, the LC. I am waiting to do another bulk test. So our production was a little low this week, so I don't want to steal blocks from production for a test. So I will be trying it again next week, and I'm going to be inoculating probably 10 to 20 blocks straight to LC, LC straight to bulk substrate, and then those will go into regular incubation and be tested like normal. But I am going to spray these on the top. Someone has also told me about peg spawn a few times. Like they said they use it a lot in Europe. I have used peg spawn before, but I've never tried it in blocks. Basically, it's where you've got your square, you take a myceliated dowel and you just run it through, tape up the side, and go. And what I'm thinking is that would be a great way to go. Myceliated dowel, shove it into the block, tape over. We'll take it to the grow room. Instead of cutting a new hole, you just pull the tape off. So that would be potentially another no-shake way of doing it, and you would be inoculating the center core of the block so that it all grows in at once. So I'm liking this idea. We'll see, though, because bulk LC would actually be, I don't know, both of those methods would work really, really well, I think. I do worry about a myceliated dowel going to manure spreaders and stuff for the compost when it leaves the facility. Like, those are not going to do well with manure spreaders. And right now I've got people that are using manure spreaders to spread our spent blocks on their fields. For a 5x5 Martha tent, will just exhaust fan work? So air flows in through the bottom, or should I create some holes with micropore tape covering at the bottom? No, I mean, yeah, if you've got your fan going all the time, then you've got negative pressure, right? Because you want the air pulling, you want to pull the air out of your tent and out a window, not in your house. And then, yeah, just let it pull air in from the interior of your house into the tent. You don't have to have holes in there. I mean, you could do some sort of filtration, I guess, of the air if you wanted, but it's not going to be necessary in your home. That yeast I put in the LC was slightly active, turned a little foamy, but not crazy. I mean, you might try it, Christopher, but the idea is that you want all the amino acids from the rendered yeasts. But you still want that sugar content in there too. So if you didn't take a specific gravity, LC's cheap. You might just pour it out and make a new batch. Sometimes I get a white fluffy mycelium in my agars and end up taking the whole dish in my grains, goes faster than the mushroom mycelium and have a lighter and less dense from the mushroom mycelium. I mean, and if it's not fruiting or anything like that, that sounds like mold. You may be getting cobweb mold. So that's a major contaminant. So interestingly enough, guys, like I have started playing with growing molds on purpose. I mean, I probably have a plate here. Yeah, right here. Where I am growing out different molds. I am actually going into the environment and doing soil swabs and swabbing fruits and growing different types of molds, yeasts, bacteria, etc. And the interesting thing about this is that once you get really good grade mycology work, like you're really good at growing mushroom mycelium on plates, growing mold, like sterile, like clean cultures of mold, bacteria, especially yeast, it's the easiest thing in the world. Holy crap. I'm actually about to do a video on it. I'm growing koji molds. I'm growing a couple of different types of koji. For basically for me to eat. Like I like different things, different fermented foods. I'm wanting to get my own yeasts to brew my own meads and beers and things like that. And I thought a mushroom yeast would be good, which is why I swabbed the mushrooms. And then on top of that, ran across an interesting article that someone showed me where apparently oyster mushrooms, Pleurotus austratus, actually produces alcohol in an aerobic environment, right? So no, basically in LC, you're getting some alcohols from it, and it can produce up to 12% according to the study, Pleurotus austratus. So you can make a 12% wine. They made an oyster mushroom wine by growing Pleurotus austratus in grape juice. I sense a video coming. So there you go. I'm very excited about all this stuff. But to give you an idea, you were asking about the mold. Like, once you get good enough that you've combated molds and yeast and stuff to grow the sterile culture you want, you can now grow those contaminants just as easily. And there's a lot of interesting contaminants from different molds that stain wood. Like, I've got a mold that stains its media purple. Never heard of it. Put it in liquid culture, it's growing great. Got kojis, which you use for food, which are used to saccharify basically to turn starches into sugar, much like the malting process Europeans use. Yeast to take sugars and turn them into alcohols and esters and other things like that. Like, it's going to be, there's cool things like, oh, this world's so full of cool things. So to get back on the actual chat, sorry, I realize I'm going off like crazy, but can you tell me what your average yield is on Hericium strains? 12-pound block, Hericium, Arenaceus, Arenaceus, and Hericium coralloides. So the coralloides for my strain of comb tooth, I mean, we'll get a 3-pound cluster easy first flush. That's a good average that we use, but we do also get 4-pound fruits pretty regularly. Once we added water crystals to the bag and pumped it full of water, and we got like 5-pound fruits the first flush. And then the second flushes were large as well. Lion's mane I have found varies wildly, like far more than I've seen on oysters. Lion's mane, I have tried so many Hericium strains over this past 2020, and I still have not collated all the data, and it's just very simple data. You know, I mean, we're talking like time of year, type of substrate, strain, and then flush weight off of it, and how long it took in each one of those stages, to like incubation, fruiting room, to flushes. And it varies so wildly, man. I can't even give you a good answer on my average on that. It'd have to be by the strain, you know. But I mean, you should be able to get a good 2.5-pound cluster easily for most strains. Most of them that are used for commercial production, like Lion's Beard, Lion's Pride. You've got my Dyson Sphere Lion's Mane strain, and it grows really well, but it only grows well in the heat. I had a lot of people try it, and they tried to grow it through the wintertime and had really bad results. So it'd be very interesting to play with that in the heat this year. But I mean, we did clone it in August. So yes, I got the King Blue Oyster LC from you months ago, and that's how it's been turning out. What do you think about it? I'm happy to send you some. Let me pull that up real quick and look at the picture one more time, Skill, because that is, I remember looking at it, but now I've forgotten what crap. I'm going to have to remember. I bet you, I know you typed your handle in here, so I can easily get that going. All right, Nick, found you. So that is actually really common, that brown that you're seeing there. That is not blotch. I see them blue. They got that little brown line. That's actually really common. Those all look like perfect pin sets to me, and flushes. It's the ugly fungling for a reason, and it does get some browning on it. I'm not really quite sure, because it shows up sometimes and then sometimes it doesn't. So that's not abnormal, but I don't know what causes it. If it's temperature or fresh air or what. But yeah, there's some crazy stuff there. So, but yeah, that's normal. You've got some good looking kings. As long as they're not aborting and staying small or getting slimy, you're good. Cameron Ferguson says, yeast. I'm a brewer myself. Mead and very dark beers. Nice. I love dark beers. Any plans to develop an alcohol-tolerant strain? Of oyster mushroom? Oh, interesting. Can we breed oyster mushrooms to be incredibly alcohol-tolerant so that you can brew in an aerobic environment, get like a 15 to 18% wine because through selective breeding? This, man, I think I found my purpose in life. We'll figure it out. I don't know, Cameron, probably, maybe. Why not inject the liquid mycelium directly into the culture bags? More because most people have problems with that. And if you noticed on my goat mix video, or I have a liquid culture straight to bulk substrate video, it seems like straw is easy enough to break down that the mycelium can actually get, nutrition off of it quickly. Do you sell mostly to restaurants or wholesale? Do you have any tips? I do not do wholesale at all. Our last video that came out, Mycological Warfare, we actually read it out, and then I just put some B-roll to it. But it's basically a discussion of why you need to control your supply chain and why we think that that's going to be the next big innovation that comes out of the mushroom world to really change the game is going to be whoever can win the logistics game. I stay away from wholesale. You're going to get like $3.50 a pound for oysters. That's stupid prices. There's no way to ever. It just wouldn't do it. I get $8 a pound. So if it cost me $3.50 a pound to produce mushrooms, which it doesn't, but if it did, and I was selling them at $3.50, I'd make nothing. And if I sold them at $8 directly to the restaurant, I could grow half as much stuff and make twice as much profit. So, but I sell like all of my fresh mushrooms go straight to restaurants, except a little bit to CSAs, and we get a few like drop-ins who come in and purchase mushrooms from us here at the shop. Market research or identifying prospective clients? Sure, Joseph, that's an easy one. I Google fine dining near me, and then I look for non-chain restaurants. I target them, and then I try to show up between lunch and supper time when the rush is done, and I drop off a sample box, a full-size 10-pound sample box of mushrooms, and never my best mushrooms. If they're my best mushrooms, I do not take them as a sample box. I bring them my second best or my third best that week. You don't want to give them your best because then they're going to expect that perfect box every week. But if you sell them something much closer to your average production quality, then they're going to expect that every week. And then what we do is we just take the best box every week and give it to a different restaurant. That way everyone gets a little bit of that amazing mushroom. So, excuse me. Yeah, baby. Were you the one that poked me? Oh. They are cute. They're very cute. So anyways, I show up with that box and then basically just say, hey, I know your time's really important. I'll get out of your hair. Here's these beautiful mushrooms. Here's my phone number to call me if you want more. And then I walk backwards out the restaurant. Usually they're calling me before I've even left the parking lot. How do you manage your gene bank? Are you talking about like long-term storage of Federico? If you're talking about long-term storage, I put them in culture slants and put them in the refrigerator. I'm about to start working with Main Cap and Stem. They have the flash freeze systems that we can work with to keep my stuff, for even longer term. Let's see, highest three yielding high heat strains. Mother of Pearl, Elmsy, heat. It's got to be heat. So Mother of Pearl, Elmsy, probably the King Blue. But that's going to be the highest yielding and one of the best textures, but it's definitely going to suffer some heat stress. But it's going to probably outproduce most others. But those are the three I would probably work with. More specifically, how do you identify customers, restaurants that will be most likely to buy? Yeah, Joseph, it's as simple as just finding someone who is a fine dining restaurant that isn't part of a chain. because those chefs are going to have a greater degree of control over what they get to do in the kitchen. So just going to say I love you guys. You know what it is. Thanks, Dustin. Take it easy. Also, an Argentinian, where did you get your mate habit? So, from a hippie friend of mine. So, a friend of mine went and lived in Chile and Argentina for a while and came back and was telling me about this magical drink called mate, to which I told him, oh, yeah, while you were gone this summer, my friend so-and-so introduced me to it, and I've been drinking it the entire time you've been gone. He's like, are you kidding me? I brought kilos of the stuff back with me. And I was like, oh, well, you can buy it here in the United States. So it's just random chance. I find that if I drink coffee every day, just every day of every week, of every month, of every year, I start feeling sluggish and kind of bad. And so I go off coffee for like 2 or 3 months, and I'll drink mate. And so I kind of switch, like coffee for 2 or 3 months, mate for 2 or 3 months, coffee, mate, back and forth. And so I love them both, but I like the way coffee tastes better. But mate makes me feel better. Like, I don't know what it is. I just feel like more energetic on mate. And I find that I tend to like mate more in the spring and summer when I'm more active, and coffee through the winter time when I want to just like sit and sulk. So at a beginner level, what is the fastest way to create new strains? I mean, you're going to have to work with spores. At the beginner level, like if you've not grown mushrooms regularly, I wouldn't suggest trying to create new strains. Just work with the ones you've got and then learn those and then go into it. But if you're talking about like just breeding, I am working on a breeding mushroom series, so I'm happily going to share that with you guys, how I breed stuff. But easiest way would just be to take a spore syringe and easiest way is spore print, spore streak on a dish, sector that out, grow. That's going to be the simplest one and the most straightforward. There are more economic ways to do it that I will teach you guys through a video series later. Dude, your Instagram post with the pop of color rocks. Pop of color? You talking about with the pinks? Because thank you. I'm not sure which one you mean. But I do have one with pink oysters that I've published recently that is definitely seeming to get some love. Like 300 something likes or something earlier is what I saw. It's definitely kicking some butt on my Instagram posts. Let's see. Does lion's mane grow well with cannabis? I have no idea. I've never grown cannabis. I wouldn't know. What do you mean, does it grow well with? Like, does it grow in the same room? Either way, I'm probably not going to know, buddy. I'm sorry. There might be some channels on Facebook, on YouTube that will know. Like I said, tired. Hello from Somerset, UK. Well, hello, Somerset, UK. When you soak your grain, how much extra percentage weight does it gain? I'm trying to soak, but no simmer tech. But think it might be coming out a bit dry. Thanks. I don't know, honestly. I think we take a 50-pound bag. So what would that be? 50 pounds. We get, Jack said yesterday, I think it was, I think he said we get 16 bags. Could be wrong about that. So that would be the 50-pound bag of grain would turn into 80 pounds total of grain spawn. So it would be about 30 pounds total over a 50-pound bag. But that seems weird to me. That seems like it wouldn't be right. So I don't know. But I mean, just soak it a little longer, let it get a little wetter, and then throw some pellets in with it to soak up the water. And then you'll have solved your problem. How long it took you to get the FB, get fully colonized after injecting with LC? Fruiting block. It took about 4 or 5 weeks to get fully colonized. What's up, Flacco? What's up, Rocket City? Yeah, man, I'm trying to do a live stream every Wednesday at 4:30. Whoa, oyster mushroom alcohol sounds funky, right, man? I know. Roan, have a chance to mess with the Hancock plate? We're going to play with... So I haven't gotten a Hancock plate yet. I haven't gotten it yet. Actually forgot all about it, man. But it has not arrived yet. Maybe I need to check the post office. I wonder if they're holding on to it. Let's see. I want to play with it, though. I want to play with it bad. You've got working on playing with the oyster wine, too. Good. Ron, if you're not in the Discord, man, you should get into it. Get into our Discord server. And there are guys we're all about to start working on different breeding projects and like oyster mushroom wine and all kinds of stuff. For someone who start mushroom production on a low budget, what is the minimal maximal amount recommended to encounter all the trouble in teaching while making money on the way out without too much loss? Okay, so this is always a question that's really hard, and I know you're asking me to interpret. So I'm going to assume that if you're asking about minimal amount, you're not getting a flow hood. So you're talking still airbox, so the price of a Sterilite bin, a scalpel, or you can get away with a crap. What do they call those knives, Samantha? X-Acto knife. Never mind. X-Acto knives, propane torch. Fruiting room. You want to make some money on it. $100 Presto, maybe 2 of those to make enough fruiting blocks that you can start making some money. Or you can build an atmospheric pasteurizer for $500. So let's say $2,000 would be the minimum. I mean, that's not really the minimum. That's if you want to actually start making money. But I mean, and all of the money you're making for the first year is going to be going into upgrades. But that's what I would do. I got you a lion's mane. Testing looks very promising. High yield and wild clone. Heck yeah, man. Send it. I'd love to try it. I have constant 30 degrees Celsius in here. Do you think lion's mane would perform good in this temperature range? Okay. Celsius to Fahrenheit. I know that 36 is right around, 89, but 30 is 86 degrees. It can't be right. Oh, shoot, 36 is 96. I was 10 off on that, so I was wrong. 86 degrees. Certain lion's mane will do well at that, and certain ones will not. It's going to be a strain thing, so trial it. I would absolutely trial it. Your King Blue reaches Europe, now at Malta. Soon comes to me. Heck yeah, man. All right. My genetics is getting international. Have you heard that Ganoderma lucidum contains fewer beneficial active ingredients than Ganoderma lynchy? I have not. I don't really get into the Ganoderma very much. I grow the ones I like the taste of. I don't really grow them for I use them for medicinal purposes, but I don't it's all about taste for me. I don't really worry that much about medicinal mushrooms. Hello, can you tell me, are you familiar with vinegar tech for growing oyster mushrooms on pellet? And if you are, can you tell me your opinion about it? Thanks. So there's a guy in our Discord who has started playing with that, and I think he's had pretty decent results. I am skeptical of vinegar tech, especially on a commercial scale. There we go. Aw, what happened to the doggy?
He does not like being on his back.
He doesn't like, they don't like being on their back.
Well, wasn't that the calm state for the
No.
the calm state?
Right. Yeah, for them, if they're on their back, it means the predator's got them. So, let's see. As far as the vinegar tech goes, I don't know, man. I would trial it. I don't have any experience with it. I just know that people have trialed it. And I am skeptical of it as I am of Lime Tech. Lime Tech always seems to work for people. And they always tell me, well, it works for me. And then it works really well until it does not. And then they're like, yeah, I'm going with heat pasteurization. So there's a reason why most people do heat pasteurization. It's just because it's so reliable. I just don't think vinegar tech is going to be any more reliable than it. But trial it and then tell the world. If it works, then it works, no matter what I say. About to whip up some Agar while watching. Heck yeah, man. Do that stuff. Agar work's getting to be. I'm doing so many hundreds of dishes a week right now. Like, I want to slow down a little. What did the early days at Mossy Creek look like? Did you just start with a farmer's market? Yeah, we started at the Dandridge Farmers Market, which is a little south of us. And I mean, we brought maybe, what was our first market? How many mushrooms did we bring? Like, we brought like 2 clusters and then kits. That was pretty much it. And without the mushrooms there, like, they sold pretty quick. And without them there, the kits didn't sell so well. So,
And every time you walked away from the booth, I'd sell something.
yeah, and like every time I would walk away from the booth, Samantha would sell something. So it became a game where I would try to stay away from the tent as long as possible so that Samantha could sell the maximum amount of money. So we
Like you didn't see how much you sold.
right. We started there, and then we went from the Dandridge Market to the Knoxville Farmers Market, the Market Square Farmers Market, and that's where we met our first chefs and then food trucks. Then we got into some brick and mortars, and then we went into just full-time restaurants basically, and quit the market because it was just so much more profitable and easy for us with fewer hands on deck to be selling with. So, I mean, when we were doing that, we were doing about 600 pounds a week average. I'm sorry, 400 to 500 pounds a week average. Samantha and I were working about 18 hours each, and then Ben was working about 4 hours. So we had about 40 hours between us selling about 400 to 500 pounds a week to chefs. 40 to 50 cases. That was it. And we had like one restaurant that would take 6 cases a week. We have a resort that'll take like 12. So, I mean, you can see that's 20 right there. So, I mean, it builds really quick. But the farmers market's where we got. This one's your favorite?
This one's my favorite.
See, this one knows its mama. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah, this is getting to be a bit much.
Here's a sleepy one.
Yeah. I'm in the middle of something, and you're trying to get into my mouth, which is dumb for a prey species.
No.
He
loves to eat my hair.
I'm afraid they're going to fall and hurt themselves.
That one thinks it's a nest. Yeah, he likes his.
Oh, well, baby. Okay, you can stay there. Just don't poop on me.
You're gonna say that it will.
Well, my friend, I like your channel a lot. Can you give us some tips and tricks for king oysters? Cold weather, and high humidity. Are you eating my hair?
He's like,
That's my beard. That's the biggest thing for me. I fruit them like normal oysters, just out the side, and I like my strain the best. But you can definitely do different king strains. Most people top fruit them. I prefer not to. I think that the plastic, when you just cut the little square, the plastic acts like a casing layer, so you don't have to do any of that. But oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. I go back and forth from green tea to coffee. Yeah, so I mean, the mate is basically my green tea. I've never really liked green tea. I've tried so hard to like green tea, and I just never have. So. Oh my goodness, it's getting to be much. In the same medium, mushroom root system latches the plant root system. I'm not sure what you mean there, Charles. In the same medium. I'm growing in jars and have 8 jars of black pearl king oyster I just put into primordial conditions. I scraped a layer of mycelium from top to get a more even pin set. Do I need to spray surface? No, I mean, as long as your humidity's high, you shouldn't even have to scrape or anything. You should be able to just open it up and expose it to fresh air and humidity, and it should fruit. That one's a very, very easy mushroom to fruit. I actually use black pearl as a semi-king oyster. It's not quite as good quality, but it grows in a wider range of conditions and easier. So I use that a lot. Can you push air from the walk-in cooler to the fruiting room to avoid spore buildup in the AC fans? I mean, I suppose you could. Your walk-in cooler is going to really you shouldn't be getting spores on any of your AC fans or fins. If you're talking about just the fans, if you're pumping air in from your walk-in cooler, then you're positive pressurizing your room. And if positive pressure is what you're wanting to use, then yes, you can do that. If you're wanting to use negative pressure, you'll have to pull out. You'll still get spores on your fans. But spores on your fans are no big deal. If you're talking about your exhaust fan, you just pull your exhaust fan, wash it out, and let it sit for a week. And so you have 2 exhaust fans for every grow room, and it dries out for in a week before it finally gets put, back in and swapped back in. So yeah, hopefully that helps you. Be blessed. We'll find out. Charles, I'm not sure. Maybe I misunderstood what you were saying, Charles. You might want to reword that for me. Grain spawn, super pasteurized soaked oats can be used regularly for the last generation. Yeah, for the last generation, I would. I wouldn't do it for, if you're ever wanting to expand grain spawn to grain spawn, I wouldn't use atmospheric. But if you're going from, grain spawn to fruiting blocks, yes, that will work. Oh, cute duckling, huh? Yeah, they are really cute. They just hatched out last night. We got maybe 8 more eggs in the incubator right now, and then we're about to start up another 36 eggs probably, or we might actually do goose eggs, which we'll probably only be able to do like 8. Hi, Andrew. Thanks for all the knowledge you share with all of us. I am really excited to hear the details of going from liquid culture to cultivation substrate by passing grain totally. Yeah, me too, man. I really want to see how it works. We're not finished with the first test, but the first test is going well. They're definitely fruiting really well. We'll see what the weight comes off the blocks looks like. And then I've got a few more tests to do later on. So, do you have any tips for patty straw? I love them and have on Agar now, going to grain tomorrow. Keep it hot is what I hear. For fruiting, hot. Like 90 degrees outside, put them in a compost pile, cook them hot. That kind of thing. I don't have any experience growing it, though. That's just what I have heard from people. Hi, Andrew. In general, do you make a second hole for the second flush? Cheers. No, we just pull the mushrooms and we don't do anything again, and then we pull the mushrooms for the second flush. Fruits out the same hole. Though we are experimenting with taping up the hole, turning the block around, and cutting a new one, but we've only done one batch like that, and we were not very happy with the results. It worked really well for one of my students, but it's not doing anything for us. The LC I made is pretty cloudy. Does pressure cooking clear it up? Yes, no. Like you'll pressure cook it and stuff will fall to the bottom. But every time you stir it, it'll go cloudy again. If you're making, a pretty thick LC, it will clarify as the mushrooms are growing in it, though. You're very welcome, Silverhand. How do you feel about reusing syringes and needles? What's the best way to clean them? So, from my understanding, they're all pressure cookable. So, suck up water in them, spray the water out, pressure cook them. But I've never done that. I always just use them as disposable. Also, can you let us, if oyster mushroom really need to be in the dark during the spawn running phase? I ask because I'm planning to keep the bags in one position from start till fruiting without moving. My blocks have light during the day in incubation, and no, they are not kept in the dark. I will say that certain mushrooms, light cycles can initiate pinning, but that's usually not a problem overall. Is there one chirping in the incubator?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some of the eggs are chirping.
That's funny. What advantages in scraping the top of the block? Thanks for answering the AC question. As far as I know, there aren't really any advantages to scraping the block. People have talked about this, but I have never found it to be necessary. Maybe for king oysters if you're going to top fruit them, but otherwise I just cut the square for the king oysters and let them fruit out the square. Hello from Guatemala. Check out my factory and your Facebook page. Absolutely, man. I'll check it out. Do you ever use a 55-gallon barrel for super pasteurization? We used to use them before we upgraded to a trough, and then we use them. Hungry? Oh. But we use a 55-gallon drum as our boiler right now. It looks like it's lost in transit since the 17th last month. I'll look into it. We'll look into signing up when I'm done folding and loading. Yeah, sounds good, Ron. Yeah, I was going to say I hadn't gotten it yet, and I had actually forgotten to even be looking for it. I was excited about it, and then life took over. Still excited about it now that I remember it, but definitely forgot. I forget things all the time if I don't put them on my calendar. I use only liquid cultures to inoculate my substrate. Works fantastically. Awesome, Brandon. What is your substrate? Because that's the real question. You are what you eat. My Fat Man LC is now beautiful grain spawn. I plan to inoculate 4 substrates. Master's mix, straw. Okay, in different ratios. What do you think will work best? I'm going to guess a straw 50-50, like the goat mix. I think the goat mix is going to work best. In fact, I've got some going to goat mix right now. Or in fact, it's already been in goat mix for a week. And I think that's going to work best, but we'll see. Gustavo says, how effective is the 3 candles while I'm... What? Candles? How effective is the 3 candles while I'm agar or grain? I don't know what 3 candles means, Gustavo. Maybe you can clarify for me. What is your rate for contamination for your grain spawn that is autoclaved? Overall contamination. It's less than 1%. I don't remember. It's 0. I'd have to look at my Google Sheets. I don't actually know, but it's definitely like less than 1%. Like we pretty much, I can count. If I make a bag, I can count on a bag. Overall contamination is less than 10% in the end use. And in fact, we didn't count it like at all this year. I mean, we counted it, but I haven't put any of it in the computer from 2020. When COVID hit, I basically just stopped plugging stuff into the computer, which has made tax time fun. Because we're definitely in a crush right now to get all of our financials done and ready for the accountant. But I don't know it. But I know that my overall contamination rate is below 10%. My contamination rate on my grain spawn is less than 1%. Is liquid culture typically cloudy 3 to 4 days after inoculation while stirring? While stirring? Yeah, it's almost always cloudy when you're stirring it. When you use the 55-gallon drum as the sterilizer, how many 12-pound bags could you get into it? 12-pound bags? I think it was close to 20. Wait, or were we using 12-pound bags back when we were doing the barrel sterilizer? Or were we doing 5-pound? So was it 25-pound bags we fit into the drums? I don't know that I ever put. I think we switched over to the trough long before we switched over to 12-pound bags. I don't remember. I see that some people use candles around the agar plates while inoculate the agar to avoid contamination. Oh, I've never seen that, Gustavo. I don't know anything about it. And in fact, if anything, what I would think is if you have a plate right here and heat sources, then what they're doing is they're actually creating an upward draft, and they're pulling air from below over your plate and then up. So I don't think that would be very effective. Excuse me. I think a still air box would be far more effective. Is contamination harmful or just a problem for the process of growing? So certain contaminations could be harmful if you ingested them, or certain spores may not be super healthy for you to breathe in, but neither are oyster mushroom spores for that matter. Most of the time, like, contamination is just one of those things. You're going to be dealing with it forever. If you're working biology, then contamination is the ever-growing problem. It's the pest problem. Finding ways to manage it, get it out of your head that you're ever going to eradicate it. All the professional growers I know still have massive contamination spikes. Everyone does have a contamination spike at some point, somewhere, sometime. Something has failed. And that's just part of it, is what failed, what vector did I get the contamination through, what signs am I seeing that lead me to think what vector it is to that point of failure. It's just a detective thing. That's all it is. Dreading taxes. Yeah, taxes, learn to love them. In fact, learn to love, taking stuff off your taxes. That's been fun. How many gallons is the trough? Mine's a 300-gallon trough. Are you whistling at it? It's peeping back to you? Oh.
That's how much egg it is, though.
Oh, yeah? I hope it's one of our eggs. Oh, say, Vinny, did you think I was calling you? I was talking to the duckies. Let's see. Thank you very much for all the answers. I wish you good health and have a nice day. You too. Absolutely. Have a good day. What wattage heat element do you have in the 55-gallon drum? I have two 4.5 kilowatt, so 9 kilowatt heating elements. 9 kilowatts total. Have you tried anything other than oysters yet on your LC to goat mix? Super excited for an update video. I have not. I have a lot of tests going, so every test has to kind of make its own way before I'm ready to take on more tests. But I am planning on trialing a bunch of stuff. In fact, I'm planning on trialing straw spawn. That's something I'm going to be working on here very soon as well. What are the storage conditions for liquid culture? Most people just store it in the fridge, but I have left liquid culture in a syringe on the countertop for over a year and then used it, and it worked out great. So I don't know. I thought that the one left on the countertop for a year, or the ones, would all be bad, but all 9 of them were good. So mushrooms surprise me every day. What do you do for insurance? I want to start selling soon and looking at the flip program. We use oh crap. Jeff something. What company is his? What's his company? I pay the bill every year. I don't remember who we work with or what program it is. Off the top of my head, I feel like such an idiot now. But it's we've got $750,000 in insurance, and it only costs me like $500 a year or something like that. I don't know. It's ridiculously cheap. I didn't think it would be a thing. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back. All right, sorry about that. I had to blow my nose. It's getting to the point where I was starting to talk like that. Oh, Gustavo, you mean for it's just room temperature. So we've got our temperature in here set at 65 degrees. Try to stir it every day for about 5 minutes, but if I could leave it on constantly stirring, I would. And Trav, I hope that answered your insurance question. I don't actually know what the flip program is, and we have our insurance too. What's his name? It's Jeff, but do you remember this company name? I can't remember it either. I just pay the bill once a year, so I don't like when the letter comes. For all I know, like so and so insurance could like send me a letter, and I wouldn't even know the difference at this point. He's a friend of my father's. My father owns an insurance agency, so. Is 65 degrees too warm for pinning black pearl king oysters? No, that's good for black pearl. King oysters, you should still be able to do too, but it will be on the warm end of what they like. Have you ever inoculated Brewer's spent grain to produce spawn? I have not. I wouldn't want to use Brewer's spent grain because it's typically not whole grain, it's typically cracked, and you don't want to use cracked grains for spawn. But I mean, you could use it for a fruiting substrate, I bet. Absolutely, Trav. Wish I could be a little bit more help there. I inoculate rice grain spawn with LC. I just fruit from these same blocks, only oyster mushrooms and another species that is legal here in Oregon, but not in many other places. Gotcha. I gotcha. Yeah, so I mean, that's your bulk spawn. Most people are not using grain as bulk spawn, and most people wouldn't call that. Like that would be, or bulk sub. I mean that would be like a grain sub, which I mean it's still your bulk. But I've gone liquid culture to bulk sub with a grain pocket, and I've done it with a lot of grain mixed into it, but never in a way that I didn't have to shake. Heck yeah, Silverhand. Glad you're getting that first grow through. Let's see. I have a farm with a tropical dry forest. What kind of mushrooms can I fruit there? I've seen a lot of reishi growing around. Well, then I'd say reishi is probably a safe bet. But I mean, if you can, are you fruiting outdoors or are you fruiting, or are you fruiting in a controlled environment? Because if you're in a controlled environment, that you should be able to grow a wide range of things. So. Well, guys, it looks like I'm at the bottom of the chat, so I guess we've been doing this for a little over an hour. I might just call it a day unless we have more questions. Is oak really necessary for maitake? I don't think so. I'm trying it on straw right now, so we'll see how it goes. We put it on straw today. Oh, I still have to shake the bags. Just makes the initial inoculation much more even from what I've seen. Yeah, I got you, Brandon. Yeah, I'm trying to find a way to get away from shaking because shaking is so much labor or the equipment that is not really all that good at it. So really want to get away from shaking if I can help it. But I don't want to top spawn because top spawn, last time I tried it, took like months to grow in. I'm thinking outdoors for big production and indoors for variety. Okay, so in a desert, you're not going to grow that many mushrooms. You're going to have some way of keeping them humid, so a spray system or something. But if you're talking about a temperature, I mean, again, I would need to know like deserts are different temperatures and stuff, but you're going to want wide-ranging things that can take the cold of the night and the heat of the day. Thanks, Charles. You too. Yeah, I'll do a video on maitake for sure. It'll be a while. It'll be probably 3 or 4 months before I do it, but I'll do it for sure. And the antler velvet mushrooms that we grow with it. You're very welcome, Silverhand. I'm glad that I could be helpful to you. So, Brandon, that'd be great, man. I'd love to come to Oregon. I will say I'm a little covered up in October. I've got some traveling that I'm going to be doing out to Colorado, and then we're having a get-together for the Mossback Syndicate here at the shop. So it's I'm not sure where I'll be around, but I might be able to make it up there at some point. Which medicinal mushrooms do you grow? Right now we're doing turkey tail, reishi. We're trying cordyceps. Those are the 3 main ones right now that we grow in any numbers. You ever grow wine caps or oysters outside in garden beds? I'm looking to try an outdoor grow. It's just a hard method. So wine caps, oysters, both are really easy in beds. Wine caps are so easy that, to me, oysters should be grown indoors, wine caps outdoors. Because oysters get buggy outdoors, but wine caps produce really easily outdoors and not indoors. So you can kind of separate the two like that. I'm over by Bend, Oregon, Brandon. Ben lived in Bend for a while. My Ben Erickson. Grabbed some wild turkey tail at the weekend and wanted to use it as my first clone experiment to Agar. Any tips on keeping it clean, cleaning it up? The turkey tail is a hard one. Hey, Ben. Turkey tails are a hard one to clone because there's very little flesh in the in-between. Get as much of the bracket as you can and get tissue from the inside of that bracket. Did you live in Bend, Oregon? No? Burns. Okay, never mind. I was thinking that it was Bend. Somebody was talking about they lived in Bend.
Yeah, so it was on the way back from Bend to Burns
That's where you got the scar?
Yeah.
Was on the way back from Bend.
Yeah.
So you were in Bend.
Yeah, spent the weekend in Bend on the way back.
Off the road. And that's where you got that nasty scar?
Yep.
Which is actually not as visible as it used to be.
Yeah. That's how things go.
Gotcha.
Anyway, so yeah, Bend almost killed me.
Bend almost killed you. He said Burns, not much there. I'm in Prineville. He said he's in Prineville. Do you know that?
Yeah, I don't remember exactly where it's at, but I passed through.
Gotcha. He said he passed through it. So, all right. So Bend, Oregon, almost killed Ben. That's not fun. But going back to your turkey tail is really fast. So once you get it on Agar, it's great. And another tip that I've thought is I thought about doing recently is grabbing the mushroom, making sure there's some bracket on there, and then just planting it bracket down into the Agar. Turkey tail grows so fast that it outruns bacteria really easily. And then I think you just take from the leading edge, far away from any bacteria or anything, and you can probably get really good clones. And I love turkey tail. It's a good one. This time of year, it's hard for me to find any turkey tail that's live, though. Who was your guiding light of influence to get you into this life? Paul Stamets, maybe? Hugh Brewer, more accurately. So that's a hard question. But I'll make the answer as easy and quick as I can. I was going to college for microbiology and then was interested in fungus. And I don't remember exactly what got me interested in fungus right then. But then I was looking in YouTube and I found 6 Ways Mushrooms Could Help Save the World by Paul Stamets. Then I bought his book because I was like, holy crap, this is amazing. And then I read his book, Mycelium Running. Then I read his next book. And then I told my teacher about it. My teacher said, oh my gosh, you should get into mushrooms or fungus at any point because I think that over the next 20 years, we're going to see millionaires come out of the world of fungus. I was like, okay, that sounds good. So I quit school because I hated the student loans I was getting because I was already growing mushrooms at home by this point. And then took a class by a guy named Hugh Brewer just so I could get close to another mushroom grower because back then mushroom growers wouldn't talk to each other. Hardly. So I took his class and we liked each other and he knew more than I did, but he could tell, I guess, that I was smart. I suppose. I hope that's what he saw. And then we just started working together on stuff. Like basically we started doing a little bit of business, but really just kind of helping each other back and forth. We sold at the same farmers markets, and Hugh was there were 2 rules that Hugh kind of taught me, which was 1, shouldn't talk bad about other people in the business, and I agree with that. I think bad-mouthing people is a really bad way to go. And the second is that you shouldn't be holding up all your knowledge. You ought to talk to each other because he was like, I have always done far better when there are other mushroom growers around me than when there are not. Because if it's just you, you don't have anyone else to rely on but you. So you might say Paul Stamets was my introduction. Though I've always been fascinated by fungi before. He was the one that kind of like made me think there might be a pathway there and then go out searching for that pathway. But then Hugh Brewer, I think, is the one that kind of helped show me that pathway. And then after that point, like I have so many mentors now. Every mentorship I take on teaches me something back. Doing this YouTube channel, I've become such a better grower because of you guys. So you guys teach me stuff all the time. If nothing else, you ask me questions I don't know the answer to. and start looking into. So guiding light is an interesting way to put it, because instead of like any one blazing light, it's more like a starry night sky. I hope that answers your question. How much water in PC to sterilize LC? I would always just put water in there until the jars were about to start floating. And I would always put so many jars in there that if they did float a little bit, they never went on their side. So I always put as much water as I could put into there. Would you say a 5,500 watt heating element is overkill for a 250 gallon box? No, I would not consider that overkill. It's really about what temperature your substrate's getting to. And I don't know your sea level, so I don't know what temperature you're going to be able to get to at atmosphere. But for us, let's see, what are we at again? 1,200, I think. So we are at 1,161. So 1,200 is, well, 1,161. That'd be 1,100. 1,100, we get at roughly about 209 degrees Fahrenheit. Is the highest we can really get our substrate to. So, you know, it's what's going to be adequate for you is going to be different than what's adequate for me. If you're closer to sea level, then you'll have more atmospheres to work with. What's the best substrate for psilocybin? So enigmatic. I don't know the answer to that. I don't have a lot of experience with that. Though I will say, well, I've consulted on a few farms in Colorado and Oregon and all that kind of stuff, in British Columbia. Okay, the best substrate that I have seen people use for it is what I'm calling the black goat, which is the straw pellets and a scoop of black cow manure compost or some equivalent to it. So some manure-based compost mixed with straw pellets and hydrated to about 60%, pasteurized, and then a lot of these guys can probably go direct LC to fruiting blocks, but I have not told any of my consoles that have done that, except the most recent one I did for that. That's my guess. That's the best I've seen. But a lot of people do like grain and cocoa, or cocoa core, or oats and black cow, I think, was another one I saw. I have some flexibility with the space. I live in Colombia, and I have this dry tropical forest like 1 hour, and some tropical moist forest an hour and a half. I gotcha. Yeah, I mean, it's going to depend really on your microclimate. You're probably going to have to do a lot of playing, a lot of experimenting to figure out where you're at. I don't have a lot of. I usually work in temperate areas. I don't have a lot of experience with tropical areas. Is LC to Agar an effective way of checking for contamination in LC? Yes, that is the best way to check. Unless there is a problem, I do regular checks, but unless there's a problem, I don't tend to check it on Agar. I tend to check it on grain. But you absolutely, Agar is considered the standard way of doing it. You're very welcome, Ad. Lion's mane and beds I wouldn't do. Bugs would just be, lion's mane likes to grow up on trees, lots of air around it. Lion's mane is one of those that can be grown with less than ideal humidity. So, is there any reason not to use corn for grain spawn? It's really cheap here in North Dakota. No, not really, other than it's just a high sugar, low protein grain. So typically most people use a high protein grain because it's like an added supplement. But because most people are doing master's mix, I don't think there's any reason that we have to use, like, my grain spawn ratios are so small. You can do 50 12-pound blocks with 1 5-pound bag of oat spawn. You leaving, baby? Oh, the kids. Okay, you're going to feed the kids? All right. Sounds good. But yeah, I mean, I would try corn. I've seen people use popcorn a lot. Let's see. What is a good substitute for soybean husk hull pellets in the master's mix? I don't really have there's nothing that just replaces it that I've seen so far. We're trialing out cracked corn, sunflower seeds, Timothy grass, alfalfa, beet pulp. Basically, if you can run through our bagger, we're trialing it right now. Now, that said, there's a lot of problems with like the sunflower hulls, or seeds, the cracked corn. I did not like working with them. So I don't know. But I will say that there are people that say alfalfa works, and they do usually an 80-20. I think somebody was doing a 70-30 the other day and said they were having really good results. So, alfalfa is usually the one I point people towards. But wheat bran works too. Let's see. How many units would you use out of LC syringe for 1 quart jar for G1 beginner status here? Maybe two cc's. Just moved up here from Arizona last fall. Loving it. Beautiful country out there around Bend. Oh, sorry. You're talking to Silverhand. My inspiration was button mushrooms for Walmart. Interesting. I've never heard anyone say that was their inspiration to get into it, but I do. I love buttons. I love portobellas. I'm actually going to be ordering some strains. I want that black goat mix I was telling you guys about, which is the straw pellets and the black cow manure compost. I want to try growing agaricus in bags on my shelves, top fruiting from a mix like that. Isn't it sad how greedy the human being is? Literally don't help people out of greed. That's what I love about your channel. You share knowledge with us all. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, it is a sad thing. Like, greed or fear. And, was it a strong tide lifts all boats? That's kind of the way I look at it. I consider myself a capitalist, but which I know is kind of a dirty word nowadays. But the one thing I love about true capitalism is it's not about screwing other people over. It's that if my neighbor succeeds, then I succeed. And that's how we create a strong economy. So, yeah, I mean, I hate the fact that greed and fear drive people to making what are ultimately stupid decisions for everyone around them in the world and themselves. Hi, Andrew. Do you recommend alfalfa with oyster or lion's mane? If yes, what percentage? So again, I don't have a lot of experience with it, but what I've heard is a good place to start is 80% sawdust. Love you, Brody. 80% straw dust, 20% alfalfa pellets. What's the best substrate for reishi? The one that I've had the most experience with is the master's mix. So 50-50 wood pellets and hardwood fuel pellets and soybean hull pellets. Have you ever tried adding H2O2 into agar while it's cooling to help clear up contaminated plates? If so, how did you find it? If not, what's the best all-rounder antibiotic? So, Paul, I don't like antibiotics. I think that antibiotics are a crutch for bad technique. So, a lot of people use antibiotics unnecessarily while they're in the learning phases when they should be focusing on learning good technique. And if you don't have good technique yet and you're doing this to try to make a living, then I would order Spawn in while you learn good technique because antibiotics are ultimately a crutch. So I don't use antibiotics. If I need to clean something up, I use water agar. And then H2O2 I don't use. I have tried the H2O2 dunks, and I've seen other people try to sterilize media with it. I don't think that it's really it's never been effective for me. So water agar, 2 people taught it to me. Love you, Aislinn. Alan Rockefeller, Sydney Over Singleton told me about water agar basically you just make up water and agar. no nutrients in it. You can do some wood and soy dust in there if you want, and that's something that bacteria doesn't eat very well, but the mushrooms will. And you can get it to grow, and basically the bacteria will start to grow around your transfer point. The mycelium will grow past it. You select for it, transfer it out a couple times, make sure it's clean. You're good to go. But yeah, I don't usually, if you've got good clean technique, you're not going to need antibiotics, H2O2, anything like that. So take the time, go slow, develop your technique. The best tech is technique. That's actually a saying that we have around here. Ben and I or Samantha or somebody will look at each other and be like, the best tech. The other person finishes it with is technique. Charity is above all and a very desirable attribute. I agree. I think it's a very good attribute. And hello, Mad Max. How best to find straw pellets? MushroomMediaOnline.com. Go talk to Seth Fisher. He'll set you up. You're very welcome. And enigmatic. Man, I cannot say your name for some reason. I'm just going to call you Alchemist. That's the problem that I have right now. I can't find like references close, so that's going to be interesting learning from those lands. Yeah, I mean, that's the problem with being a pioneer, man. Is if you're a pioneer on the fringe, you don't have a lot of resources to tell you the knowledge that you need, right? So you have first mover advantage, but you lack the knowledge resources to really take advantage of what you have available with you. You have to figure it out. There's a lot of waste that comes in figuring it out. And in a way, I'm sorry that you have to go through that, but I had to go through it, and it actually made me a better grower. So I think it'll be good for you, actually. Though it'll be harder. Thanks so much for all of your videos and help. We are going to mentor with you some week of this year. I haven't scheduled it yet, though, but really looking forward to it. That sounds great, Christopher, man. You're welcome. Come down. I will say that I think some of my weeks are starting to get full. I'm not sure which ones yet, but I upped it a little bit because the mentorship program went so well in 2020. Like, blew my mind at how many mentorships we did. And I was only allowing one couple at a time. I'm now allowing 2 to 3 couples at a time, so there are more spaces available, which means I'm hoping that weeks won't fill up so fast for people. So hopefully, I think we'll have plenty of space for you. I'm sure you'll find something. But if I may suggest, the best time to come here is in the fall. It's when all the leaves are changing, everything's pretty. Though if you want to go swimming and hiking in the mountains, like we get it done at 4 o'clock here, and you want to go take off and go swimming or something, coming in June, July is a good time. Wow, 5-pound spawn to 600-pound substrate. That's not, is it 600 pounds? 12 times 50? Am I just being a fool again? It is 600 pounds. Okay, yeah. Yeah, 5 pounds spawn to 600-pound substrate. I don't even know what that rate is. What percentage would that be? Right? No antibiotics, bad stuff. Yeah, I agree. I'm not a big. So it's not even that I get ear infections all the time. I'm on antibiotics like 6 months out of the year because of my autoimmune stuff. Like I get bad ear infections one after another after another after another. So I go on steroids and antibiotics starting in the fall, and then usually through the winter time. Like I would be dead if it wasn't for antibiotics. But as far as anything else, I think that they're a crutch in mycology. Like, I think a lot of people use them because they're used a lot in the scientific world. But to me, it's just, you can be so much more effective without it. After I have my grain spawn colonized, is it a lot more resilient to contamination? Is adding boiling water to cocoa core not enough, or should I pasteurize it too? So, I mean, not enough is boiling water to it is not the correct way. If it's a way that works for you, then do it. Like, this is one of those things where people get into there's a correct way and there's not a correct way, right? There's a wrong way. And I think that everything's the wrong way. Everything's the wrong way until you do it less wrong. The question is, are you getting acceptable results doing what you're doing? And If you are, then that's a good way to go. A lot of people use boiling water. I actually wonder if I just took bags from Thor, straw pellets, soy pellets, water. I haven't ever just taken them straight to the lab and inoculated them. And I've wondered, do I really need a HEPA filter? Do I really need to have a cook? Or if, let's say I produce bags and they've got some mold spots in them, who cares? Because as long as the bag fruits and I get my weights out of it, I'm good, right? So, I mean, there's a lot of things I've wondered about this. So I don't really know. But yes, in general, spawn after it's colonized is more resilient to contamination. You still wouldn't want contamination in there because if there's even one teeny tiny little green spot in your spawn, when you go to shake that bag, all those green spores are now everywhere. Whatever you inoculate is going to have green spores on it, and that's going to grow faster than your mycelium because mold grows faster than mycelium. Nose is getting stopped up again. I may have to stop this soon. For some reason. Little ducks are chasing each other. I've got it bad ADD in case you guys can't tell. Let's see. I would pasteurize the cocoa just because of to have everything a standard way. But thank you so much for water Agar tip. Complete beginner hobbyist and let one contaminated plate spread to 4 or 5 other plates through bad tech and fighting contam since then. Thanks again. Yeah, Paul, it happens to everybody. That's the way it goes. Like, you're never going to get away from contamination completely, but it will get to the point now. So back in the day when I first started, when I wanted to clone an oyster and I wanted to be sure that I got that clone, I would do 10 clones from that mushroom. Then it went down to 5. Then it went down to 3. And now, I do 2 plates. If I clone a mushroom, I do 2 plates. And your skill level will get to the point where you can be so careless. Like it'll be interesting. Like I can look at a mushroom and know if I can clone it or not. Like if it's mush, you can't clone it. But if there's any solid tissue on the inside, I'll go, okay, there's a 50-50 chance I'm going to have this. And then, so on and so on. There are some mushrooms that look perfect. And then once you pull them open, they're wormy on the inside. Those worms, as they're traveling through, they're carrying bacteria from the outside of the mushroom all the way inside and out. So if your scalpel hits one of their tunnels, you're now taking bacteria from that tunnel all the way through that cut, and nothing that you have is going to be clean. So, there's just like a million little vectors that you're going to have to keep in mind, and you're not going to know them until you mess up. And when you mess up enough times, it's going to become second nature. Have you ever experimented with cordyceps and insects? Yes. Right there are some super worms that I sprayed with liquid culture of cordyceps, and they are now growing in quite well on my desk. And I'm waiting to see if they produce any pins or fruits or anything. But other than that, that's the only experience I've had with it so far. I do have a little worm farm going specifically because I want to grow on bugs. I don't want to grow on the vegetarian substrates. That doesn't make sense to me. It's like feeding a lion tofu. Futurama reference.
Oh, yeah.
You heading out with your mom, Claire?
I guess.
All right, love you. Love you, baby. I'll see you guys at home. Let's see. If you had a constant access to a few hundred pounds of ground coffee, Brewers, spent grain, and cardboard, starting with liquid culture syringes, how would you proceed? I would quickly throw all that stuff out and go grab some hardwood fuel pellets and some soybean hull pellets, and then some oats. And then I would go liquid culture to oats to Master's Mix or the goat mix. But free is never free. I don't like free substrates. I have access to thousands of pounds of coffee and cardboard and all that stuff, and it's poor growing substrates. Now, if it's an idealism thing for you, then sterilize that stuff and then spray it with liquid culture and try it out. Hey, that's really loud. Yeah, I'm finishing the live stream. You better go. Brody, your mom's leaving, man. The ducks will be here tomorrow. Love you too, boy. Let's see. How do you go about initiating relationships with restaurants and grocery stores at first? I don't do grocery stores. That's a different level of regulation than I want to deal with. So I type into Google, find dining near me. I find non-chain restaurants. I target those. I arrive sometime between lunch and dinner whenever they are not busy. I hand them a 10 full-size 10-pound box of mushrooms as a sample with my phone number on it. I do not give them my best-looking mushrooms. I give them my medium-looking mushrooms. And then I just basically say, hey, I know your time is important. I just wanted to hand you these mushrooms and see what you think. And if you want more, call that number. And usually they're calling me before I've even left the parking lot to come back in and do it. So that's how I initiate relationships with restaurants. You can walk in and you can say, hey, can I speak to the person in charge of purchasing produce? And the front end manager, who has probably been trained to not introduce you, will tell you to go tell you, they're not there. So you just leave the box with them. But if they will introduce you to the person in charge of purchasing produce, actually, a lot of times I'll go in and they'll be like, what are you selling? I'll be like, mushrooms. They're like, mushrooms? Oh, yeah, come on, he's back here. And I know that if I had said tomatoes or something, he would have been like, nah, we're good. But let's see. Oh, man, my hips are starting to hurt. All this sitting I'm doing. Brilliant. Thanks for the info, brother. I've spent days trying to find out that info. Yeah, you're very welcome. Be encouraged, 42, and Godspeed. God's peace to everyone. You too, Silverhand. Take it easy. I'm planning on inoculating the sterilized Brewer spent grain with LC to produce spawn, and once fully colonized, inoculate pasteurized ground coffee cardboard mix. I mean, try it, and you could probably make that work, but Brewer spent grain is usually not a good substrate because it contaminates so easily with bacteria because the shell is cracked, leaving the nutritious goodness on the inside open to bacteria. LC is usually the people have most problem with it is it have bacteria growing alongside their mycelium. So now let's say you take your LC and you're spraying it into a bacterial playground. You're now doing two different things that are increasing your chances of bacterial contamination. And then when you look at it, that coffee and cardboard does not really have the right nutrition profile to support good flushes. And then you're going to, not to mention that it's hard to standardize those products. Like you're going to be doing a lot of extra work to get a substandard product that way by trying to use a free substrate. Now, if you have a giant batch mixer already and you haven't already spent the money on if you've already spent that money, then make use of it. But I wouldn't do it, Patrick. I would stay away. Free is never free. Free always costs you something. The question is, what do you really want to pay? And I would rather pay money for a bag of substrate that's easy to handle and gives me consistent results than I would going through and trying to finagle free resources. That's like, again, if it's an idealism thing for you, then push on. But I will tell you, so I've done lots of tests. Oysters don't actually like coffee. You can probably breed some that will do. That would actually be really relatively easy. You germinate spores on coffee grounds, sterilized coffee grounds, and then pick the best growers and then fruit those out and then pick the best fruiters. But it just, again, where are you getting the coffee? Is it hydrated all the same? Are you going to have to do hydration tests, which now adds a new labor, step in your labor process? What about the cardboard? Is it going to be saturated properly? Or wouldn't it be better just to get, two dry ingredients and put water and all three of them together and be that much easier? And your labor is what will be saved. And this is what I always try to push home for people. In mushroom growing, it's going to be a while before you've got enough hands on deck that you're really making big strides. So at every turn, you need simple, cost-effective solutions to lower your need for labor. So any extra steps you have to take to get that product that you're wanting, which is the mushrooms, that's going to be difficult. So I will always pay money for materials if it will save me time, because time is the one thing I can't replace. either my time or someone else's. I've got very limited manpower to work with. I hope that helps. And I'm definitely not ragging on you. Like, if you want to grow on that stuff and make a successful system off of it, I would love to see it. I would love to do a YouTube video with you on it. I just think it's going to be an uphill battle. Whereas if if you're doing this for profit, you can, which I mean, it sounds like you are if you're talking about hundreds of pounds of ground coffee and brewer's waste, then you basically buy that hardwood fuel pellets, buy those soybean hull pellets, get your cash flow going, soak up some profit, take that profit, invest it in a batch mixer, start experimenting with coffee grounds and spent brewer's waste and cardboard and hydration levels. And now you have the proper infrastructure to fit your idealism, because you decided not to put idealism first, but rather put the path to profit first. Would it be safe to clone a 3 to 4 day old fruit to agar? Yeah, I mean, that'd be fine as long as it's not just pure mush. You really want to get that good sterile tissue on the inside. Other than substrate and grain spawn, azomite. Other than substrate and grain spawn, azomite. Is that the only thing you recommend as an additive? I don't even recommend azomite. I've never added azomite. I want to add a couple pounds of spent coffee to my 20 pounds of cocoa substrate. I mean, you can try it. Again, I feel like coffee also contaminates faster than a lot of things. So it's just, I don't know. I think coffee is a really poor substrate. Shiitake seems to like it. When I did my agar test, I did a bunch of coffee agar, and I trialed tons of strains. And the only thing that responded really well to coffee that didn't slow down, shiitake actually grew faster on the coffee than it did on its control plates of the malt extract agar. And I think that's a pH thing. I think it's because coffee is acidic, and shiitake does seem to like an acidic environment, which is weird because people put lime in their blogs. So, anyways, that's just. I'm just not a big fan of coffee. I tried it for years, and I was so sold on it as a substrate, and just not really a big deal in it, or not really feeling it. Hi, sir. Is it okay if I directly use Spore print LC? Thank you, and more power. So you can. You have a much higher risk of contamination that way. And spores, straight to liquid culture, produce. They act differently. Like, you don't get a variety of strains. You tend to get a strain, and I don't know why. It's just the way it is. Like, it just tends to fruit like a normal mushroom. It is different than the parent, I have found, but I don't think Spore straight to LC is a good way to go, because you're not giving it anything other than sugar. And one of the big problems in mushroom culture is enzyme blindness, which comes from sugar. The mushrooms basically get diabetes, forget how to produce their own sugars, and grow weak, we'll say. That said, I have done it. Spore print LC many times, and it does work. So yeah, I mean, more power to you. Do it. What is the difference between pasteurization and super pasteurization? I can't find much info on it. So it depends on who you ask. So super pasteurization, according to the mushroom world, is steam pasteurization. It's high heat for extended period of times. By high heat, I mean around the boiling point, steam temperature. Around the boiling point of water, and it's going to be for like 24 hours at a time, 12 hours. Keep it at temp for 12 hours, that kind of thing. Super pasteurization, scientifically speaking, is talking about like flash pasteurization of milk. So getting milk up to a very high temperature very quickly, and then cooling it back down very quickly. So it's two different things. Pasteurization in the mushroom world is something like 160 degrees for a couple of hours, and is usually used on what we call self-selecting substrates. Now, self-selecting substrates are Straw, bacteria does not like straw, right? It's not its favorite food. Molds and funguses like straw. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to kill any living mold, hyphae that exist in that straw, and any of the low temperature spores that can be killed low temperature. And then you're adding a lot of spawn to that straw because the self-selective substrate will allow you to grow mycelium, but not have to fight bacteria all that much. That is the big difference between the two. One is like a water bath, one is steam. And again, they mean different things in different contexts. So I hope that answers your question. If it doesn't, let me know and I'll see if I can answer it a little bit better. James Gebhard says, thanks. We are starting production for farmers market season now. You've been a big help, very much appreciated, earth and goodness. Well, thank you, James. I appreciate the kind words. I'm glad that you guys have found me helpful. That is my endeavor. Do you have any experience using wheat bran for fruiting blocks? Boy, do I. That's what I used to grow on back in the day. 40% wheat bran, 60% hardwood fuel pellets. Now the only thing we use wheat bran for is shiitake. We still supplement that high. A lot of people recommend supplementing lower because you get fewer mutants that way. I do not care if I get mutants. My chefs like the mutants, but I don't even get that many mutants. Like, it's a low level amount of them, and I do get a increased yield. So that said, I don't have a lot of experience with some of the newer strains like the Chinese shiitake, the Japanese sun strain. There's a new one for Mycopia people are doing. 3790 I'm just now trialing. It's my fourth trial using 3790. 3782 is the one I have the most experience with back in the day, but I don't tend to grow a lot of shiitake because it's not nearly as profitable a mushroom as oysters are. Everybody gets kind of caught up on the higher price tag they can get with shiitake, but if you count all the labor that goes into it and then the long turnaround time, it's nowhere near as profitable as oysters. Thanks for doing this and all your information. Been a great help ever. Just drop agar in liquid culture instead of making mycelium water. I don't know what you mean by drop agar in liquid culture instead of making mycelium water. But if you have seen my videos with the agar biopsy, I take agar, stab a needle through it, break it off, and then inject through the needle. And that's a little piece of agar. I'm just dropping it right in. So yeah, I mean, that's how I make most of my strains, is from agar to, I usually, I can clone from mushroom to liquid culture, but it is more usual for me to clone to agar so that I can go from agar to culture slants to liquid culture to more plates to grain spawn, all from the same plate. Justin says, "Sub Andy, huge fan. What is the best way for long-term storage of the strains you wish to keep?" Actually, that's a good video for me to work on. I mean, I've talked about making slants, like pouring them, but it's in my agar series. You can check that out about like making the agar and then pouring it into slants. But it's literally just inoculate those slants, seal them with parafilm, throw them in a 3 or 4 in a Ziploc bag, and then put them in. I just put them in my drawer, like vegetable drawers, in the refrigerator here at work. I've got some backups at like different people's homes in case this place burns down. My genetic library is everything to me. I can buy all of this stuff again. Some of these strains die, nobody else has them, So, I mean, most of the strains I've got, no, not most, but all the parent stock is out there in the world. But a lot of the wild oysters I haven't released yet, started selling it. If I'm not selling it, I don't have it out in the world. So, but cold storage is the best way to go. I am wanting to work with main cap and stem in the near future with trying to get everything frozen, flash frozen liquid nitrogen and kept. I'll have high grade backups with them, and then most of my working backups will be with me. And then who knows, maybe in 10 years I'll be like, hey, you remember that one strain? Can you send me a copy of it? And they'll boot it up and send it to me, and then I'll get to see how my strains have changed over time. Oh, crap. I forgot to set up my appointment for tomorrow. Well, guys, it's going on 2 hours. I've had a lovely time with you. And I definitely want to jump off here and go spend some time with my family. So I'm probably going to pack up here. Plus, I've got like a ton of video stuff to work on tomorrow. But I will answer these couple questions real quick, and then I'm jumping off. So let's see. I guess I just mean take the liquid culture lid off and just tossing in a couple of pieces of colonized agar plate. I'll try your way next time. Thanks again. So if you're working with liquid culture, you should have needles. And it's going to be easier than taking the lid off. But think of it this way. If your vector of contamination is a teeny tiny little needle versus a gloved hand opening a jar, think about how much of a vector each one is. That needle is going to be a much smaller risk than your hand opening the jar. That's why I moved to the agar biopsies. And if you're working with liquid culture, like I said, you're already going to have needles and syringes around anyways. So you can stab the jar, suck up a little bit of liquid culture, stab the plate, stab the jar again, inject it in, because you want to make sure you got some liquid behind that little plug, and bam, you have the easy, like, people talk about liquid culture being so difficult. Ever since I've started doing agar biopsies, liquid culture is easy peasy because you never open it, you never risk it. Like, that's the big thing. Why do you recommend buying Oyster and Hericium grow kit? Who do you recommend buying Oyster and Hericium grow kits from? Missing Meadows mushrooms is a good place to go for kits. Let's see, where is Missing Meadows mushrooms? It's MISSING, missing, not misting. So it's missingmeadows.com. This guy named Jesse Campbell, and he does a lot of kits and stuff. I don't know what his stock looks like because I know he's not like the largest company, but he does a lot of my strains, and he's in our syndicate, and he does a lot of work for the community, and he's the one I would probably recommend. I'm sure there are others too that are out there. You're doing great, bro. Keep up the good work. One sport at a time. Much love. You too, Farmer Mac. And thank you, man. I'm glad that makes sense and helps. Like, it's always kind of a weird subject. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, I definitely had this like thing with needles where I didn't want to work with them in the beginning because of the, I guess, drug culture or whatever. And then I've got T-shirts now with needles being stabbed and mycelium growing out, and it's always the first comment I get is always about drug culture. So, love the content. Quick question: I started a LC from white button mushroom spores and can't see anything online that shows what healthy liquid culture looks like. Do you know? Yeah, man, just go look at some of my videos. You can see me stirring liquid culture and stuff. I appreciate the response on Brewer spit grain, coffee, cardboard. Cheers. Yeah, absolutely, Patrick. I hope it helps, man. And if you go ahead with it, please share your results. And if you don't, please share your results. I'm always looking to see new stuff. So with that, y'all, keep spawning culture.